Silence is not the absence of power, it's the presence of control. You've been told your whole life that time heals all wounds, that if you just wait long enough, the pain will fade, the sting will disappear, and somehow, you'll be fine again. My friends, that's one of the biggest lies we've ever swallowed. Time doesn't heal on its own. It just gives you space to choose how you'll heal. And the most powerful way to heal, not shouting, not chasing, not explaining yourself until you're blue in the face. It's silence. But not that weak, scared kind of silence where you sit there biting your tongue, hoping someone will finally understand you. I'm talking about the kind of silence that feels like walking away from a burning building without looking back, knowing you're never stepping foot inside again. Hey folks, imagine this. You're standing in the middle of a boxing ring. Your opponent, maybe it's a betrayer, a manipulator, an ex who thinks they've still got you wrapped around their finger. They're dancing around, throwing punches of words, accusations, and little jabs meant to make you swing back. Most people would throw their gloves up, try to defend themselves, maybe even swing wildly in return. But not you. You just stand there, calm, still. You look them in the eye and do nothing. And here's the funny thing. The crowd goes silent. The punches stop mid-air because no one, especially the one who hurt you, knows how to fight someone who refuses to play the game. You see, folks, people who betray you expect a reaction. They've rehearsed the whole scene in their heads. They're ready for your angry text at 2 a.m. They're ready for you to knock on their door demanding answers. They're ready for your voice to crack as you tell them you can't believe they did this to you. That's their safety blanket. Your reaction gives them a script to follow. It keeps them safe from feeling the full weight of their guilt. But when you give them silence, when you don't show up for the performance they've prepared for, oh my friends, that's when the cracks start showing. I've seen it happen over and over again. Silence is like holding up the most brutally honest mirror anyone will ever face. They can't argue with it, they can't twist it, and they sure as hell can't escape it. It's like handing them a box labeled everything you've done and locking them in a room alone with it. And the longer they're in there, the louder that box rattles in their head. Here's the truth most people don't want to admit. We think that talking fixes things. We think that if we can just explain ourselves enough, they'll finally get it. But often, all it does is feed the same cycle that's been draining us for months, maybe years. Sometimes, my friends, the strongest thing you can do is shut your mouth, keep your peace, and let your absence do all the talking. Because absence is not emptiness. Absence is a presence that's felt in every room they walk into without you. It's the echo they can't turn off. It's the unanswered message that stares at them every time they pick up their phone. It's the realization that the person who used to always be there isn't anymore. So today, I'm going to show you how to make silence your weapon, your shield, and your freedom all in one. We're not here to be cold, just for the sake of it. We're here to be strong because we finally know our worth. And if you're ready for that kind of strength, I want you to type 3 words in the comments right now. I am untouchable. Write it, own it, and feel it. Press that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. Because what's coming next is going to change the way you handle every betrayal from this day forward. Number 1. The betrayer's expectation trap. They don't miss you. They miss controlling you. That line might sting, but it's the truth most people aren't ready to hear. Because here's what happens. When someone betrays you, they don't just leave with your trust. They leave with the assumption that you'll react exactly how they expect. And that assumption, my friends, is their biggest weapon. Picture this. It's like a magician pulling off the same trick over and over. They've been doing it for years, and the audience falls for it every time. They know exactly when you'll gasp, when you'll clap, when you'll lean forward in disbelief. And the magician, the betrayer, counts on that reaction because it's what makes the trick work. But one day the audience, you, just sits there, no clapping, no gasping, no reaction at all. The magician's hands start to tremble, the trick falls flat, and the truth comes out. The magic was never real. That's what silence does to a betrayer. They expect you to cry. They expect you to chase. They expect that one last desperate message, "Can we talk?" Because that's the script they've been rehearsing in their mind. And they're so sure you'll follow it, they don't even prepare for another outcome. Why do they expect it? Because most people do it. When we get hurt, our instinct is to demand answers, to fight for understanding, to chase some kind of closure. We think that if we can just get them to explain, we'll finally be able to sleep at night. But here's the lie. Closure doesn't come from them. It never has. The only reason they give you just enough attention to keep you talking is because it protects them from having to look in the mirror. Your reaction cushions their guilt. Your words give them a shield against facing their own actions. But when you go silent, when you stop feeding that loop, you're not just ignoring them, you're tearing away their safety net. You're making them stand face to face with what they've done, with no distractions, no excuses, no audience. And that terrifies them. Have you ever noticed how uncomfortable people get when they don't know what you're thinking? It's not just curiosity, it's fear. The mind hates uncertainty. Neuroscientists call it ambiguity aversion. When they can't predict your next move, their brain scrambles for answers. And every second you stay silent is another second they start questioning themselves. Did I push them too far? Did I lose them for good? Are they done with me? Those questions keep them up at night because, unlike an argument where they can argue back, silence gives them nothing to work with. And here's the metaphor I want you to remember. It's like taking the batteries out of a remote. For years they've been pressing buttons to get you to respond. Jealousy, guilt, anger, pity. But suddenly, nothing happens. The buttons don't work anymore. And when the remote stops working, it's not you that panics, it's them. Because they realize they don't have the control they thought they had. But let's be real, folks. Breaking that cycle is not easy. Every part of you will want to defend yourself, to set the record straight, to prove your side of the story. That's the trap. They're counting on you to feel that way, because it keeps you on the hook. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Staying silent when you're burning inside is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. You'll feel the urge to send that text, to answer that call, to remind them of who you are and what you mean. But every time you resist, you're teaching them something powerful. You're no longer predictable. And unpredictability is their worst nightmare. Because if they can't predict you, they can't control you. And if they can't control you, they have to face the possibility, the fear, that they've lost you for good. Some of you right now are thinking, but what if they just move on and forget me? And I get it. That's the fear talking. But let me tell you something. People don't forget the person who suddenly stopped feeding their ego. They don't forget the one who broke the pattern. They can pretend they're fine. They can post pictures smiling. They can act like they're living their best life. But deep down, the silence you've given them has carved its mark. You've heard the saying, revenge is a dish best served cold. In this case, it's not even a dish. It's an empty table. They show up expecting to be fed. Your attention, your emotion, your time, and instead they find nothing. That nothing is louder than any words you could have said. And here's the twist. Silence doesn't just change how they see you, it changes how you see yourself. The first few days you might feel like you're losing, but then slowly you start to realize you're not just reacting anymore, you're choosing. You're making moves based on your values, not their behavior. And that shift, my friends, is the beginning of real freedom. It's the moment you stop living in their emotional weather. You're no longer tossed around by their storms, waiting for the sun to come out. You've built your own shelter, you've lit your own fire, and from that place, you can watch the storm from a distance, knowing it can't touch you anymore. So, when they expect the fight, give them calm. When they expect your tears, give them a smile they'll never see. When they expect you to explain yourself, let your silence be the only explanation they get. Because in that silence, they'll find everything they've been running from. And I want you to prove to yourself right now that you're capable of it. Write this in the comments: I am in control. Let the world see it. Let yourself see it. And the more you see those words, the more you'll start living them. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you that you don't need to fight to win. Because what's coming next, folks, is going to teach you how to take that silence and sharpen it into the strongest weapon you've ever held. And when you do, the betrayer won't just feel like they've lost you. They'll feel like they've lost everything they once thought they owned. Number 2. Passive silence versus strategic silence. Silence is only weakness when it's forced. When it's chosen, it's power. Now here's where most people get it wrong, my friends. They hear silence and they picture someone sitting in a corner, swallowing their pain, hoping life magically gets better. They think of silence as this fragile, passive thing, a sign of someone too scared to speak up. That's the kind of silence that breaks you from the inside out. That's not the silence we're talking about here. Strategic silence? Oh, that's a whole different beast. Strategic silence is a choice. It's the moment you stop reacting, not because you can't, but because you won't. It's not weakness, it's calculation. It's not retreat, it's positioning. It's the difference between someone hiding from the rain and someone building a roof. Let me give you a picture you won't forget. Imagine a battlefield. 2 armies stand across from each other. One army, the betrayer's side, is screaming, banging their shields, trying to intimidate. They're expecting you to rush forward, to meet them head-on in a fight that will drain you both. But instead, you stay still. No sound, no movement, just this calm, unshakable presence. They get louder, trying to provoke you. They charge forward and realize no one's there to meet them. They swing into empty air. That's what strategic silence feels like to someone who's trying to pull you into a fight. All their effort collapses into nothing. Passive silence, on the other hand, is when you want to speak, but you're too afraid to. You bite your tongue because you don't believe your words matter. You avoid confrontation because you think it'll be worse if you say something. That kind of silence doesn't feel empowering. It feels like suffocating. And the worst part? People can smell it. They know when your silence is fear, and they will use it to walk all over you. This is why the difference matters so much. Strategic silence is active, even if it looks still. It's the act of pulling your energy back from places it's being wasted. It's the art of saying, without words, you no longer get access to me. Now let me break the lie that's been sold to you for years. If you don't speak up right away, you're letting them win. Wrong. Sometimes speaking right away is exactly what they want. They want that immediate reaction because it gives them the upper hand. You're emotional, you're raw, and in that state, you're easier to manipulate. Strategic silence says, I will speak when it serves me, and not a second before. Think about chess. A beginner reacts to every move instantly, chasing the other player's pieces around the board. But a master pauses. A master studies. A master moves only when the move changes the game. That's the mindset you need here. I know what you're thinking, but won't they think I don't care? Let them. In fact, let them wonder about it. Let that question swirl around in their head like smoke in a locked room. When you care loudly, you hand over proof that they still matter to you. When you care silently, they're forced to guess, and human beings hate guessing. It keeps them restless. You might also be thinking, but if I stay silent, how will they know they hurt me? My friends, they already know. They knew the moment they did it. People don't accidentally betray you. They make choices. And silence is the proof that you've finally stopped negotiating over what they already know they did wrong. This is where the discipline kicks in. Passive silence feels like waiting. Strategic silence feels like moving on. Even if your feet haven't gone anywhere, your energy has. You stop checking their profile. You stop rehearsing the perfect comeback in your head. You stop sitting by the phone. You don't just withhold words, you withhold access. That's the part they can't stand. Because let's face it, most betrayers don't actually fear losing you. They fear losing their version of you. The version that always picked up the phone, that always forgave, that always explained. When you stop being that version, you force them to deal with a reality they've been avoiding. And here's the beautiful, ironic twist. Strategic silence isn't about them at all. It's about you. It's about reclaiming the mental space they've been living in rent-free. It's about hearing your own thoughts again without their voice taking up half the room. It's about using the energy you used to waste on proving your worth to actually build your worth. Now, I won't lie to you. It's going to feel weird at first. You'll have days where you want to break the silence just to relieve the tension. You'll want to send a little jab, post something they'll accidentally see, drop a hint that you're still alive and kicking. That's normal. But here's the test. Every time you resist, your silence grows sharper. Every time you choose not to react, you take another piece of power back. And over time, you'll notice something incredible. You're not holding the silence anymore. The silence is holding you. I've seen it in the eyes of people who've mastered it. There's a calm there that no betrayal can shake. It's not the calm of someone who never felt pain. It's the calm of someone who went through hell and stopped letting hell send postcards. So, when you feel the urge to explain yourself, remember this. Your silence says everything. It says you've stopped giving free tickets to your life's drama. It says you've stopped letting them direct the script. It says you've moved from the stage to the director's chair. I want you to declare it right now. Type these words in the comments so you see them, so you own them. I choose silence. This isn't you giving up. This is you standing taller. This is you showing the world without a single word that you can't be pulled into games you didn't sign up to play. And stay with me, because in the next part, we're going to go even deeper. We're going to talk about why silence doesn't just hold power. It can cut deeper than any insult, any argument, and any revenge plan you could ever imagine. And once you understand that, you'll never see silence the same way again. Number 3. Why silence cuts deeper than words. The sharpest blade you'll ever hold is the one they can't see, and that blade is silence. People think words are the most powerful weapon in a conflict. They think if they can just say the perfect sentence, deliver the perfect comeback, they'll win. But words are noisy, folks. Words can be argued with. Words give the other person something to push back against. Silence gives them nothing, and that's exactly why it cuts so deep. Imagine you're standing in front of a locked door. You know the person you hurt is inside. You can hear faint movements. You knock. No answer. You call their name. Still nothing. You knock again, harder this time. Silence. That's when your mind starts playing tricks on you. Are they ignoring me? Are they gone? Did they hear me and just choose not to answer? Every second without a reply feels like an hour. And the more you wait, the heavier that silence becomes, until it's not just absence you feel, it's rejection. That's the psychology of it, my friends. The human brain is wired to hate uncertainty. When someone refuses to give you a reaction, your mind starts filling in the blanks on its own. And here's the cruel beauty of it. The story they create in their head will always be worse than anything you could have said out loud. You don't have to tell them they messed up. You don't have to say you're done. Your silence is the message. And it's a message they can't misinterpret, twist, or argue with. It's like an echo in an empty canyon. The first moment, they barely notice, but the longer it goes on, the louder it feels. They start hearing their own words, and actions bounce back at them. No one likes that kind of mirror, especially not someone who's guilty. And let's break another lie here. The idea that speaking your mind is always the brave thing to do. That's not bravery. Sometimes that's just feeding the fire. Because when you speak, you give them material. You give them reasons to defend themselves. You give them ammunition to shoot back at you. Silence denies them all of that. It's the clean cut of a blade that leaves no fingerprints. I've seen it happen in relationships, friendships, even business. Someone betrays you, and at first they're calm because they know how you'll react. They're ready for the explosion. But when the explosion never comes, when you don't send the long text, don't call, don't even post something cryptic on social media, that's when the panic sets in. They thought they knew you. They thought they could read you. Now they can't. And people fear what they can't read. Let me give you a metaphor you'll never forget. It's like pulling the plug on a loudspeaker. The music stops instantly, and in that sudden quiet, you notice how loud your own breathing is. Silence has a way of turning people inward, forcing them to hear things they've been avoiding. And for a betrayer, those things are heavy. But let's be honest, using silence like this takes more strength than shouting ever will. It's easy to yell when you're hurt. It's easy to send a wall of texts explaining exactly why you're angry. What's hard? Sitting in the storm without saying a word, holding your ground while every cell in your body screams to speak. That's discipline. That's self-control. And self-control is power. The truth is, silence doesn't just cut the betrayer, it shapes you. It forces you to stop reacting and start observing. You begin to notice their patterns. You see the way they try to bait you back into the conversation. The little "hey" messages, the sarcastic comments, the indirect posts meant for your eyes. Those aren't signs they're fine. Those are signs your silence is working. Because here's what happens. When someone's used to you always being available, your sudden absence creates a vacuum. And nature hates a vacuum. They'll try to fill it with excuses, with provocation, with anything that might get you to break. And every time you don't, that blade twists a little deeper. Now I know some of you are wondering, what if they just don't care? And here's the thing. If they truly don't care, then your silence still wins. Why? Because you've stopped pouring your energy into someone who was never going to value it. You're free either way. But most of the time, people care more than they'll admit, especially the ones with big egos. Silence bruises the ego like nothing else. It's like not showing up to a fight they trained months for. They shadow-boxed, they prepared their speeches, they rehearsed their fake apologies, and you didn't even step into the ring. You left them swinging at air. That's humiliating. And humiliation lingers. But here's the part I want you to remember. Silence is not revenge. It's self-respect. Revenge is about them. Silence is about you. It's about choosing peace over chaos. It's about choosing dignity over drama. And yes, it will hurt them. Not because you're trying to, but because the absence of your presence forces them to face themselves. I've seen people turn their whole lives around because someone they hurt went silent. I've also seen people spiral deeper into their own mistakes because of it. But in both cases, silence was the catalyst. That's why it's so powerful. It changes the dynamic whether they deserve your forgiveness or not. Now let me be real with you. If you're waiting for silence to make them come back, you're missing the point. Silence is not bait. It's a boundary. It's the moment you say, I'm no longer playing this game. And if they do come back, it's not because you chased them. It's because they realized they can't live without the peace you used to bring. So, when you're tempted to speak, remember this. Silence is a language. It says, I'm done explaining. I'm done performing. I'm done being predictable. And that language is understood in every culture, every relationship, every betrayal. It's universal. Right now, I want you to claim it. Type this in the comments. My silence speaks. Let it be a reminder to yourself that you don't have to raise your voice to be heard. You don't have to fight to win. You can let your absence be the loudest thing in the room. And stay with me, because in the next part, we're going to break down exactly how silence destroys manipulation at its roots. I'm going to show you why, once you stop reacting, they lose the only power they ever had over you, and how to make sure they never get it back. Number 4. Breaking the manipulation cycle. Manipulation only works if you follow the script. That's the part nobody tells you, my friends. Manipulators aren't improvisers, they're directors. They hand you a script before you even realize there's a play going on. They know exactly which scenes they want you in, which lines they want you to deliver, and which emotions they want you to feel. And as long as you read from their script, the show runs exactly the way they planned. But the moment you drop the script, the moment you go silent, the whole production falls apart. Imagine you're in a play and you've been on that stage for years. Same story, different day. Act 1, they push your buttons. Act 2, you react, hurt, angry, maybe both. Act 3, they turn the blame back on you, and somehow you're apologizing for things you didn't even do. The audience claps, curtain falls, and the next day, the cycle starts again. That's what manipulation is, rehearsed drama. Now picture this. One day, they come to you with the same old lines waiting for your part. But this time, you don't respond. You don't shout. You don't cry. You don't explain. You just step off the stage. And here's the thing. They can't perform without you. There's no applause, no tension, no resolution. Just them, alone, holding a script that suddenly feels useless. That's the raw power of silence. It's not just refusing to fight, it's refusing to play. And manipulators don't know what to do without the game. Let's break their process down, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Step 1. They test you. They poke at your insecurities. They make a little joke that cuts deeper than it should. They forget something important to you. They say something vague that makes you wonder what they meant. Why? Because they're mapping out your emotional reactions. Every sigh, every text, every shift in your tone, they're logging it like data points. Step 2. They weaponize it. Once they know how to get a rise out of you, they'll repeat the behavior whenever they need to shift the power back to themselves. If they need you to feel guilty, they'll hint you're ungrateful. If they want you to feel insecure, they'll bring up someone else in a way that makes you compare yourself. And every time you react, you're confirming their control. Step 3. They repeat until it's habit. This is where it gets dangerous. The more predictable your reactions are, the less effort they need to manipulate you. They just press the same emotional buttons and watch the same predictable response play out. And if you've ever felt like someone has you figured out, it's because you've been giving them the same emotional script for too long. But here's the secret they never want you to figure out. Their control ends the second you stop reacting. And I don't mean pretending to be calm while you boil inside. I mean truly stepping back, emotionally, mentally, and if needed, physically. Think of a puppeteer holding marionette strings. As long as you move when they pull, the illusion of control is complete. But the second you stop moving, the strings go slack, the show stops, and the puppeteer is exposed for what they really are. Just someone standing there with useless strings in their hands. This is why silence is so terrifying to manipulators. It's not that they don't hear from you. It's that your silence removes their ability to predict you. And unpredictability is their nightmare. Because if they can't predict you, they can't plan their next move. But here's the tricky part. The moment you go silent, they will push harder. Expect it. They'll throw out bait, hoping you'll bite. A friendly message, a sarcastic jab, a fake apology designed to lure you back into the old rhythm. Some will even try to provoke jealousy or anger just to get something out of you. Because to them, your anger is still proof they matter to you. And this is where your discipline gets tested. Every time you don't take the bait, the grip they have on you loosens. Every time you choose stillness over reaction, you're teaching them that the old methods don't work anymore. And here's the kicker. Once a manipulator realizes they can't get to you, they either have to face themselves or go find someone else to control. Either way, you're free. But let me be real with you. Breaking the manipulation cycle isn't just about silence. It's about recognizing the patterns they've built and refusing to participate in them, even when it's uncomfortable. It's about sitting with the urge to set the record straight and letting it pass. It's about remembering that not every accusation deserves a defense, and not every provocation deserves a punchback. One of the biggest lies manipulation feeds you is that you owe them an explanation. You don't. You never did. The truth is, an explanation is just more material for them to work with. They'll twist it, reframe it, and use it against you later. Silence denies them that fuel. I've seen this play out countless times. The manipulator starts with subtle digs. The target, maybe it's you, maybe it's someone you love, reacts defensively. They argue, explain, plead. And the more they do, the deeper they get pulled into the manipulator's frame. But the one time they don't react, the dynamic shifts. The manipulator loses their grip, and it's never quite the same after that. Think about it. How many times have you left a conversation with a manipulator feeling drained, angry, or doubting yourself? That's not an accident. That's the point. They feed on that energy, and when you stop giving it, you cut off their food supply. So here's what I want you to remember. Silence is not just the absence of words. It's the refusal to play the game. And when you refuse long enough, the game ends. Right now, I want you to write in the comments, I break the cycle, not I will, not I hope to. Present tense, because the moment you commit to it, the moment you start practicing it, you've already begun. Show them, show yourself, show the world that you won't be pulled into someone else's script ever again. And stay with me, because in the next part, we're going to talk about what happens after the silence, the mirror effect. I'm going to show you how your absence doesn't just stop the manipulation. It turns all their energy back onto them, forcing them to see the one thing they've been running from this whole time, themselves. Number 5. The mirror effect of silence. Silence is a mirror, and the reflection it gives back is never flattering to the guilty. Here's the thing most people don't understand, my friends. Silence isn't empty. It's not just the absence of sound. It's a surface. A clean, unshakable surface that reflects everything the other person has done back to them. And if they've betrayed you, manipulated you, or taken you for granted, that reflection isn't going to be pretty. When you speak, when you react, you give them a way out. They can argue. They can twist your words. They can turn your emotion into the story. But silence leaves them with nothing but themselves. And the truth is, most people can't stand being left alone with the truth of what they've done. Imagine handing someone a perfectly polished mirror and saying nothing. You don't accuse them, you don't explain, you just let them look. At first, they'll smile, maybe even smirk, pretending they like what they see. But as the seconds pass, their expression changes. They notice the lines, the cracks, the tiredness in their own eyes. They see things they've been avoiding. That's what your silence does. It forces them into a kind of emotional eye contact they've been dodging for years. And this mirror effect isn't instant. That's what makes it powerful. At first, they'll convince themselves they don't care. They'll tell themselves you're overreacting. They'll even try to flip the script and make it your fault. But when the days pass and your silence stays unbroken, the mirror gets harder to ignore. See, silence removes the noise they've been hiding behind. No arguments to distract them, no emotional explosions to make them feel justified, just stillness. And in that stillness, their own conscience gets louder. Every manipulative thing they said, every moment they took your loyalty for granted, every little jab, every broken promise, it all starts replaying in their mind. Not because you reminded them, but because their own guilt is doing the work for you. And here's the part that makes silence so devastating. The longer they stare into that mirror, the more they start questioning themselves. Did I push them too far? Are they done with me for good? What if they never come back? These questions aren't curiosity, they're fear. The fear of realizing that the person they thought they had power over has walked away without looking back. Let's be clear here. This isn't about punishing them. This isn't about sitting in your silence just to make them feel bad. The mirror effect is about giving them the one thing they've been running from: accountability. And you can't force accountability on someone with words. You can't argue someone into feeling guilty. They have to arrive there themselves. And silence, that's the road that takes them there. I've seen people unravel from this. I've seen the strongest, most arrogant personalities start sending accidental texts, liking your posts out of nowhere, dropping by just to see how you're doing. That's not random. That's the mirror talking. That's them looking for a crack in the glass so they can escape the reflection. But here's where you have to be careful. The moment you break your silence just to respond to one of those little tests, you hand them a hammer, and they'll use it to smash the mirror you've been holding up. They'll go back to the old games. They'll rewrite the story. They'll tell themselves, see, I still matter. I still have control. That's why the mirror effect only works if you hold it steady. And trust me, they will try to break it. They'll poke at you with passive-aggressive comments. They'll send mutual friends to check in on you. They'll pretend they've moved on, hoping it'll provoke you into speaking. But every time you stay silent, the mirror holds. And every time the mirror holds, their discomfort grows. Think of it like this. You've turned off all the lights in a room except for one spotlight, and that spotlight is aimed directly at them. They can't hide in the shadows anymore. They can't point the light somewhere else. It's on them, 24/7, and it's exhausting. That's what silence feels like to someone who's guilty. It's constant, it's focused, and it doesn't let them escape themselves. Now, some of you are thinking, but what if they don't feel guilty? What if they really are that cold? And sure, there are people who can bury their conscience deep enough that the mirror doesn't seem to bother them. But even then, your silence still wins. Why? Because you're no longer participating in the cycle. You've stopped giving them access to your mind, your time, and your emotions. You've taken back the one thing they need to keep playing the game: your engagement. And here's the beautiful part. While they're stuck with that reflection, you're free to start building your life without their interference. You're not sitting there thinking about how to get them to change. You're not rewriting texts in your head. You're not reliving every argument. You've stepped out of the room entirely, leaving them to face themselves while you move forward. This is the part they never see coming. They expect silence to be temporary. They expect you to cool off and then return. But when they realize the mirror isn't going away, when they realize you've truly removed yourself from the equation, that's when it hits them. That's when the regret sets in. Because losing someone's voice is one thing. Losing their presence entirely, that's a loss you can feel in your bones. And sometimes the regret doesn't show up right away. It might take weeks, months, even years. But the mirror effect is patient. It doesn't fade. At some point, something will trigger a memory of you. A song, a place, a random moment, and they'll feel the weight of your absence all over again. And in that moment, they'll know exactly why the mirror looks the way it does. That's why your silence has to be steady, my friends. Not cold for a week and then warm again. Not ignoring them until you get bored and want attention. True strategic silence is consistent. And consistency is what makes the mirror impossible to ignore. So here's what I want you to do right now. Claim it. Type in the comments, "I hold the mirror." Say it, own it, believe it. Because when you hold the mirror, you control the reflection. And the longer you hold it, the clearer that reflection becomes for the one who betrayed you. Stay with me, because in the next part, we're going to talk about your side of the mirror, the rebirth that happens while they're trapped in their own reflection. I'll show you how silence isn't just a weapon, it's a seed. And when you plant it right, it grows into a version of you they'll never be able to touch again. Number 6. The rebirth in silence. Some endings aren't destruction, they're construction for the person you were always meant to be. Here's the part they never talk about, my friends. Silence isn't just something that shakes them. It's something that shapes you. While they're stuck staring into the mirror of their own actions, your silence becomes the soil where a new version of you starts to grow. And I'm not talking about a slow, quiet change that nobody notices. I'm talking about a rebirth so complete that one day, when they come back looking for the old you, they won't even be able to find your shadow. When betrayal hits, your first instinct is survival. You want to understand. You want to fix. You want to grab the pieces and put them back together, even if it means bleeding in the process. That's the trap most people fall into. They get stuck in that survival loop, thinking the only way to heal is to get answers from the one who hurt them. But here's the truth. The answers don't come from them. They come from the quiet. Because in the quiet, there's space. Space to think. Space to breathe. Space to see where you've been pouring yourself into places that only drain you. And in that space, you start realizing something powerful. You've been giving away pieces of yourself to someone who never planned to return them. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. Imagine a garden that's been overrun with weeds. The flowers are there, but they're choked by everything that's been growing around them, stealing the sunlight. That's what a toxic relationship is. Weeds in your mental garden. And silence. Silence is pulling every single one of them out by the root. It's dirty work. It's uncomfortable. But when the weeds are gone, suddenly the flowers start to breathe again. Suddenly they bloom. This is the part where your silence stops being a shield and becomes a tool. At first you hold it like armor, protecting yourself from more damage. But over time, you realize it's also a chisel, carving out the old habits, the old patterns, the old beliefs about what you deserve. You stop chasing their approval. You stop explaining yourself. You stop apologizing for standards that should have been respected in the first place. And here's something beautiful. The more you stay silent toward them, the louder you start hearing yourself. Not the voice that's been doubting you. Not the one that's been shaped by their criticism, The real one, the one that says, you've been enough all along, you were never the problem. But let's be real, this rebirth isn't instant. It's not like you go silent for a week and suddenly feel like the most confident person on the planet. No, at first it feels empty, lonely even. You'll have nights where you wonder if you made a mistake, if maybe you should just reach out one last time. But every time you resist that urge, you plant another seed in that garden. And slowly, those seeds start growing into something you've never had before, self-respect that isn't negotiable. They might notice it. In fact, they probably will. They'll see it in the way you no longer respond to things that used to get a rise out of you. They'll notice it in your absence, not just physically, but emotionally. You're not waiting anymore. You're not standing in the doorway hoping they'll come back. You've closed the door, turned around, and started walking towards something better. And here's the thing, that's when the regret hits them hardest. Not when you're angry, not when you're trying to convince them of your worth, but when you've stopped needing them to see it at all. Because that's the moment they realize they've lost not just your presence, but your openness, the part of you that gave freely, without hesitation. This is what makes silence a rebirth instead of just a pause. It's not about freezing time, it's about using that time to rebuild, to remember who you were before the manipulation, to decide who you want to be after it, and to make sure you never shrink yourself down for someone else's comfort again. Picture it like this. You've been carrying a heavy backpack for years. Every insult, every broken promise, every time they made you feel like you had to fight for basic respect. It all went into that bag, and you didn't even notice how heavy it was until you set it down. That's what silence does. It takes the bag off your shoulders. At first, you might reach for it out of habit, thinking you still need it. But then you realize you can walk faster without it. You can breathe easier without it. And with every step, you start picking up something else. Not weight, but strength. The kind of strength that comes from knowing you don't have to accept crumbs just to avoid being alone. The kind of strength that makes you look in the mirror and finally like what you see, because you know the person looking back isn't bending, begging, or breaking just to keep someone else comfortable. Some people will call this coldness. Let them. You and I know the truth. It's not coldness, it's clarity. It's seeing things for what they are without the fog of emotional dependency. It's realizing that love without respect isn't love at all. And once you've had that realization, going back to the way things were isn't just hard, it's impossible. Now here's the twist. While you're rebuilding, you're not just becoming stronger for you. You're becoming someone they can't reach anymore. Not because you've locked the door, but because you've built your life in a place they no longer have the map to. And when they finally notice, when they finally turn around and realize you're gone, that's when your rebirth becomes their loss. This, my friends, is the real victory. Not proving them wrong, not making them beg, but living so fully, so freely, that the person they thought they could control is now untouchable. And if you've been wondering when your turning point will come, it's this. The moment you stop looking at silence as something you're doing to them and start seeing it as something you're doing for you. That's when the shift happens. That's when your absence stops being a reaction and starts being a decision. So here's what I want you to do right now. Declare it. Type in the comments, I am reborn. Not, I will be. Not, I'm trying to be. Present tense. Because the moment you decide it, the moment you own it, you've already started living it. And stay with me, because in the next part, we're going to talk about what happens when this rebirth starts showing on the outside, when your energy changes, your presence becomes selective, and you develop a kind of strategic coldness that not only protects you, but makes sure no one ever gets the chance to betray you the same way again. Number 7. Strategic coldness as self-love. Being cold doesn't mean you've lost your heart. It means you've learned where not to leave it. This is where the journey shifts, my friends. You've been through the silence, you've held up the mirror, you've rebuilt yourself in ways they never thought possible. But now comes the part that makes people stop in their tracks when they encounter you. Strategic coldness. Not cruelty, not bitterness, not the kind of cold that freezes everything around you. This is precision coldness, targeted, controlled, the kind that keeps your dignity intact and your boundaries unshakable. Because here's the thing, people who have hurt you will test the waters again. They want to know if you're still you, the you who gave too many chances, the you who explained every feeling, the you who tried to understand even when they didn't deserve it. And strategic coldness is your answer. I'm not that person anymore. Think of it like a vault. Inside is your heart, your trust, your vulnerability. Before, that vault door was always cracked open. All someone had to do was smile the right way, say the right thing, and they could walk right in. But now, the door is shut, locked, guarded. You decide who gets access, and most of the time, it's no one. This doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It means you stop caring about pleasing people who have shown they can't respect you. It means you no longer throw open the vault for anyone with a half-hearted apology. You no longer confuse nostalgia with worth, and you certainly no longer hand over your peace in exchange for their chaos. Strategic coldness is not revenge. Revenge says, I want you to feel what I felt. Strategic coldness says, I want you to feel nothing from me at all. And here's the power in that. Most people can recover from anger. They can argue with it, reason it away, convince themselves it wasn't that bad. But when you meet them with calm distance, when your eyes hold no trace of the old softness, that's what leaves them rattled. Picture a fire they thought they could warm themselves by forever. They could come and go, feeding it just enough to keep it burning. But one day, they come back and the fire's gone. The ashes are cold. They hold their hands out, expecting heat, and all they feel is air. That's what your strategic coldness is. The day they realize the source of comfort they relied on no longer exists. And let me tell you, some of them will try everything to reignite it. They'll poke at old memories, hoping to spark something. They'll try to draw you into conversations that used to make you melt. They'll even act like they've changed just to see if you'll thaw. But your coldness is no longer a mood. It's a decision, a policy, a standard. Why is this so effective? Because manipulators, betrayers, and users don't fear your anger. They fear your indifference. Anger means you're still emotionally invested. Indifference means they're irrelevant, and irrelevance to someone who once had your attention is like a death sentence to their ego. But here's where the self-love comes in. Strategic coldness isn't just about keeping them out, it's about keeping you safe. It's a reminder to yourself that your peace comes first, that love is not proven by how much pain you're willing to tolerate, that not everyone deserves to know the warmest parts of you. You'll notice the difference in yourself. Someone tries to provoke you. You don't react, you observe. Someone tries to guilt you. You don't defend. You smile and let the silence speak. Someone tries to pull you back into the same cycles. You don't fight them. You simply don't step in. And the best part? This coldness doesn't drain you. In fact, it saves you energy. You're no longer burning fuel trying to explain your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. You're no longer chasing closure from doors you've already closed. You're no longer letting temporary feelings lead you into permanent mistakes. I know some of you worry, won't people think I'm heartless? The right people won't. The wrong people might. But remember this, the people who accuse you of being cold are usually the ones who benefited from your lack of boundaries. They're not mourning your heart. They're mourning their access to it. Here's the beauty of strategic coldness. It attracts what's real. Because when you stop giving your warmth to everyone, you start noticing who's willing to show up in the cold. The ones who prove themselves, the ones who respect your space, the ones who understand that boundaries aren't walls to keep love out, they're gates to let the right love in. So don't be afraid of the shift. Don't be afraid if they say you've changed. You're supposed to change. You're supposed to grow. You're supposed to get to a place where you love yourself too much to go back to what broke you. And here's what happens when you hold that line. The game ends. The manipulation stops, not because they've suddenly become better people, but because you've stopped being the person they could play with. And in that moment, you'll realize something incredible. They never had the power. You just kept handing it to them. And now you've taken it back. This, my friends, is where the full circle closes. From the first silence to the steady mirror to the quiet rebirth. And now to the cold, calm, controlled presence that nothing can shake. You're no longer the person who begged for respect. You're the person who demands it simply by existing in your truth. So here's what I want you to do right now. Write in the comments, "I protect my peace." Let that be your declaration. Let that be the line you never cross again. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you that your boundaries are non-negotiable. And if this message hit you in the chest, if it made you think about the people you've let too close for too long, then I want you to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because the more we learn to turn our silence into strength and our coldness into clarity, the less power anyone has to take our peace away again. You've come too far to go back. Hold your silence, guard your heart, protect your peace, because the person you've become, they're untouchable now.